back to our countdown to story number 2, China problem. Tensions grow as China releases a simulation of a multi-point strike on Taiwan after a 2-day military exercise routine around Taiwan. The 2-day exercise was a powerful punishment for Taiwan separatists seeking independence, this according to Chinese officials. Taiwan's Ministry of Defense condemned the exercises, saying that, quote, "We seek no conflicts, but we will not shy away from one. We have the capacity, determination, and confidence to safeguard our national security." Just another more tensions overseas on the world stage under Joe Biden's feckless foreign policies. Let's bring in our expert panel to discuss. Senior Fellow for China Strategy at the Heritage Foundation, Michael Pillsbury. Also with us, author of China is Going to War, Gordon Chang. Thank you so much for joining us. Gordon Chang, that is a powerful statement right there. China is going to war. Why do you think that?
Well, first of all, Lydia, we have China waging 3 proxy wars right now. The one in Ukraine, throughout North Africa, and of course the Middle East, Israel, Gaza, the Red Sea. But also we have China threatening war in a number of locations in East Asia. That would be Taiwan, of course. The biggest flashpoint at the moment is the Philippines, and we can never forget Japan. So you have a regime right now that has obviously made the decision to risk war because that's what they're doing. The only question is whether they've already made the decision to go to war. That one we don't know.
And Michael, what are your thoughts on China releasing this simulation of this multi-point strike on Taiwan?
Well, they've had a strategy for several years. This is a new part of it, that the two parties on Taiwan differ enormously on their attitude toward China. The KMT Nationalist Party actually goes to visit China. They claim they've worked out kind of a consensus back in 1992 that there's only one China and Taiwan's a part of it, but there's different interpretations. The other side, the party that just won the election but has lost the legislative branch, that party has said that Taiwan is already independent. And this seems to be what provokes the Chinese military exercises. They just can't follow the logic of these two different political parties on Taiwan. The U.S. is sort of neutral, doesn't interfere in favor of one party over the other. But this kind of military exercise, I could use a specialized term for you. It's called desensitization. It's when you do enough exercises around your target over many, many years that they kind of get used to it. And this happened with the Egyptians' attack on the Israelis in '73. There were like 30 exercises, and the Israelis got desensitized. And then number 31 was the real invasion. So that's my concern, that there really will be an attack on Taiwan. And slowly over time, they're just wearing down the defenses with these exercises. This only lasted 2 days, so it's not really a serious wartime exercise. But still, it desensitizes Taiwan to not pay attention to this buildup of force around them.
And then, of course, they want to drag the United States into this. And then we've got our own battle on our border. We're seeing the number of Chinese nationals, Gordon, they're skyrocketing, right? I'm seeing this latest report here, Chinese migration to the U.S. with 30,000 arrested for illegally crossing the border nationwide since October. That number surpassing 24,000 Chinese migrants encountered during the whole fiscal year of 2023. The number under President Trump, minuscule compared to that. We're talking about a 700% increase compared to the two administrations. Gordon, what's going on?
Well, if we go back a couple of years, Lydia, we were seeing primarily family groups come across the border, Chinese family groups. Now, 80 to 85% are single males, military age, traveling without family members. U.S. Border Patrol knows that some of them have links to the Chinese military. We have seen some really disturbing behavior because they're also coming across our northern border. So, for instance, I think that China's building up the infrastructure in our country to attack us. We can see this from that secret Chinese biological weapons facility that was found last year in Reedley, California, which had at least 20 pathogens, including the one for Ebola, which China, by the way, is now trying to weaponize, and almost 1,000 mice that have been genetically engineered to spread disease. So we're going to get hit, and the Chinese are going to be part of this, along with their friends, the Iranians, the Syrians, the Venezuelans. As the FBI said in February, the risk of terrorism then was higher than it was in the weeks before 9/11.
Wow. Michael, what do you think is happening?
Well, I agree with President Trump on the campaign trail. he's been raising the question, is this some kind of a Chinese army that's being reconstituted inside our borders? The really outrageous thing, I think, Lydia, is the FBI is not interviewing these people. They're not following them. They're treating them as though they're ordinary immigrants, illegal aliens coming from Costa Rica or Bolivia or somewhere. That's not justified. The FBI should be interviewing these Chinese and vetting them and seeing where in the world they go after they come inside the country. There's been talk that they go to firing ranges, that they somehow meet each other in groups. So this is very alarming. And usually I'm a fan of the FBI's work on China, but in this case, they seem to be remarkably relaxed, or President Biden just hasn't told them to get a hold on who these people are and what they're doing. That's the scary thing to me.
And then before I let you go, Gordon, even more scary, the fentanyl that's coming across our border, drug poisonings at an all-time high. Is this another chemical warfare being waged on Americans by the Chinese? Because we know that they are getting those chemicals from China, and then they're putting it together, the cartels, and then pushing it across the border?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is with the approval of the Communist Party, because the party runs a near total surveillance state. It knows what the fentanyl producers are doing. Some of them are even actually state-owned. We know that the Chinese diplomats give cover to the fentanyl gangs. Every container that leaves China is inspected by officials. The Chinese fentanyl gangs, they launder their proceeds through the Chinese state banking system. And China's TikTok actually promotes illegal drug use in the United States. So this is chemical warfare. Xi Jinping is killing about 75,000 Americans each year, deliberately killing. And we have a Biden administration that couldn't care less, that, it just touts all of its progress with Xi Jinping on fentanyl when they ought to know better.
Michael, 30 seconds to your final thoughts on this fentanyl crisis, and why Joe Biden? Why doesn't he just shut it down?
Great question. President Trump had an agreement with the Chinese on fentanyl, that they would turn it into a controlled substance, which they did. But then many other things that were left to be done in Trump's second term. One of them was to be sure that the fentanyl companies that manufacture the precursors in China don't get tax breaks. Now there's a new research that shows, based on websites, the Chinese companies are getting tax incentives to produce the precursors for fentanyl. This is really outrageous. And it's also not challenged by the Biden people, at least not in public.
I just dropped my jaw on the floor. Tax incentives for these companies? I can't.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Michael Pillsbury, Gordon Chang, we have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
Well, ahead of this Memorial Day weekend, our very own Christina Thompson visited the USS Intrepid in New York during Fleet Week to help commemorate those who gave their lives in the fight for freedom.
As nearly 3,000 Marines and sailors step off their ships in New York this 36th annual Fleet Week, tens of thousands of visitors, even here on the Intrepid, in a way, trade places with them, honoring the memory of those who made the ultimate sacrifice this Memorial Day.
On a personal basis, this is a Second World War ship. I wear this one to honor my father. He was Second World War. I'm honoring also my brother and my sister. My sister was an Army nurse. Her first patient was a triple amputee. A lot of people don't really understand what kind of sacrifice you make. You know, these are the kind of stories that you hear from the veterans. We've got to remember them. We've got to keep these stories alive.
Countless stories, just like these. Too many to tell.
You can see the propellers on the aircraft are bent back, showing the force of the impact when his plane hit the water.
But we can try.
16 million men served in the Second World War. 16 million men went into uniform. There are less than about 150,000 of them left.
It's really powerful.
It stirs up a lot of feelings. As we're preparing, my ship is preparing to deploy in just a couple of days.
To be able to see it firsthand, to experience it firsthand as close as possible as a civilian, it does mean a lot.
Stories like these, a somber reminder of the price of freedom. Without